Followership Reflection. After viewing the TED Talk on followership and engaging with Saunders' 2022 research on emotional intelligence and followership styles, Rajesh and colleagues' work on follower emotional intelligence and transformational leadership, and Prisco's study on servant leadership and occupational therapy, along with Chapter 11 in An Occupational Perspective on Leadership. This is how these ideas informed my responses on question A and B of this assignment. Question A, is followership a form of leadership, and how does it fit into a world where everyone is encouraged to be a leader? Before engaging with this material, I would have said that I'm more of a follower than a leader. I associate leadership with visibility, quick thinking, confrontation, and positional authority. Followership felt quieter and safer. However, the TED Talk really reframed that assumption. The speaker's argument that if leadership is the spark, followership is the flame deeply resonated with me. Leaders may articulate a vision, but it is followers who operationalize it. More importantly, the talk emphasized that great followers are faithful, focused, and fearless. That final characteristic, fearlessness, it's not about dominance, it's about moral courage. Chapter 11 expands on this idea by describing leadership and followership as a dance. These are not fixed identities, but dynamic roles. In distributive leadership models, individuals move between leading and following, depending on context, expertise, and need. This challenged my assumption that one must be a leader or a follower. Instead, effective professionals develop a capacity for both roles. The literature reinforced this shift in thinking for me as well. Research by Saunders in 2022 examined the relationship between emotional intelligence and Kelly's followership styles, and found that higher emotional intelligence is associated with more effective followership patterns, including what Kelly described as star or exemplary followers. This suggests that followership is not passive compliance. It requires self-awareness, emotional regulation, independent thought. In many ways, as my emotional intelligence and professional confidence increased, my own followership style has evolved. Research by Rajesh and colleagues in 2019 demonstrated that follower emotional intelligence mediates outcomes associated with transformational leadership. This means followers are not merely recipients of leadership influence. They actively shape outcomes through their own emotional and relational capacities. In occupational therapy specifically, research by Prisco in 2025 found preliminary support for servant leadership behaviors among OT leaders. Servant leadership prioritizes growth of others, stewardship, and service before status, qualities that are equally foundational to strong followership. Taken together, this material supports a clear conclusion. Followership is not subordinate to leadership. It is developmental. It cultivates humility, discernment, and ethical courage. In a culture that encourages everyone to be a leader, perhaps what we truly need is for everyone to first learn how to follow well. For me, followership was not an absence of leadership. It was my training ground for leadership. Question B, my own personal experience and follower type. Reflecting on Kelly's typology in Chapter 11, I most identify with the star or exemplary follower. Star followers demonstrate a high critical thinking and high engagement. They are not blindly compliant, and yet they're deeply committed to the mission. This description feels accurate for me. Throughout my career, I have not sought to be in the spotlight. Public speaking makes me nervous. I dislike confrontation because it feels personal and emotionally heavy. I do not enjoy power-driven leadership models, particularly those rooted in control or micromanagement. However, I care deeply about mission, ethics, and quality of service in my role as an occupational therapist and an advocate in public education. As my professional skills and competence grew, so did my engagement. Early in my career, I focused on learning how to be an OT and doing my job well. Over time, I began to mentor newer therapists. I found that I lead most comfortably through encouragement, system building, and strengthening others. I prefer relational influence over positional authority. My impact as a follower, as a mentor, systems thinker, and steady presence contributes to leadership effectiveness even when I'm not the formal leader. Shalef's courageous followership model also resonates with me. I relate most closely with the partner, high support, high challenge. I am deeply supportive of leaders and organizational missions, whether that is in my role as a school based occupational therapist or as a volunteer in a nonprofit organization. But when integrity or mission alignment is at stake, I will speak up. I do not challenge impulsively, I challenge carefully and relationally. I raise my hand and contribute in professional team meetings. I will softly support teachers or parents when things get stressful in an IEP meeting. I will advocate for the therapy department's needs and for individual therapists when necessary. Integrity matters to me more than comfort. This pattern extends beyond occupational therapy. Volunteering has always been central to my identity. Through the Catholic Church, through schools, animal rescue, children's charities, and local community engagement. In my small rural town, I quietly attend city council meetings at least 2 times a month. I transcribe them and I collaborate with community members to advocate for quality of life, fiscal responsibility, and ethical leadership in response to what many perceive as power driven leadership. Recently, this pattern of jumping in to volunteer culminated in my submission of a letter of interest to the Washington Occupational Therapy Association in regards to the president elect position. The current president is facing some family circumstances requiring relocation. Multiple calls for volunteers had gone unanswered. Writing that letter did not feel like a personality shift. It felt like a values alignment moment. I did not step forward because I desire authority or a title. I stepped forward because the profession needed continuity. If not me, then who? Followership grounded in service becomes leadership grounded in service. This experience clarified something for me. I have been practicing leadership for years through followership. By developing critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and service orientation, as well as moral courage, I was quietly building leadership capacity. Followership did not hold me back from leadership, it prepared me for it. The most meaningful insight from this assignment is that leadership and followership are not opposites, they're complementary expressions of influence. In occupational therapy, where service and collaboration define our professional identity, the strongest leaders may very well be those who first learned how to follow well. For me, leadership did not emerge from ambition. It emerged from alignment with values, with mission, and with service. In that and that realization feels both grounding and empowering. Thank you very much for listening.